20. And Corinne, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Bookbinder?
Present.
Commissioner Ching?
Yeah.
Commissioner Ching?
Here.
Commissioner Colville?
Present.
Commissioner Hines?
Here.
Commissioner Rivlin?
Present.
Did I hear you, Commissioner Rivlin?
You did. I said present.
Thank you. Vice Chair Ostrowski?
Present.
And Chair Cray?
Here.
All present.
Okay, thank you. And has everybody had the chance to review the minutes of our last meeting, July 28th? Any
I'm going to
corrections?
abstain from that.
Mention? Sure.
Yes, I abstain as well. I wasn't here.
Anybody have any corrections or want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as included in our packet.
I'll second that.
And who was the second, please?
That was Nick Colville.
Thank you.
And can we have a voice vote, Corinne, or how do we do it? Yeah.
It's all in favor.
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have the two abstentions, Commissioner Ostrowski and Ching. And then Director Kermoyan, do we have any communications for the commission or any changes or modifications to the agenda?
There are none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so I guess this is the point of the meeting where we open it up to anybody to speak on an item that's not on the agenda. Give people up to 5 minutes to speak on an item not on the agenda. I don't know if we have anybody, but this would be the time. If anybody's out there. Okay, seeing or hearing nobody, we'll close that part of the meeting. And before we start the agenda, I should ask if there's any disclosures by any of the commissioners for any of the items on the agenda. No disclosures?
I need to confirm the first item, the 85 Gilman. I'll wrap that up while we're talking here. The distance question that has come into play in the past. Let me just confirm that before we proceed. It's 500 feet, right? Actually, while Commissioner Rivlin's looking that up, I just want to mention that I haven't spoken with any of the applicants, but I've gone out and visited all the sites. I'm 506 feet from this address, so I believe I can continue with the item as reviewed. Is that correct?
The rule is 500 feet.
Yeah, and this is from the common HOA of my neighborhood.
Right.
The closest boundary. I'm 506 feet, so I believe I can continue.
Okay.
Correct, and unless there's some reason that it would have some effect on your property values.
No.
Okay, well, very good. I know there's a lot of applicants here to speak, so I think we'll just, I'd like to accommodate people that are here, but let's just go in order since I think we got people from all the items. So we'll start with item number 1. This is a continued public hearing from our Planning Commission meeting of June 23rd, 2020 to consider the application of Gordon Wong for an administrative plan development permit, PLN 2019-234, to allow for the establishment of a small fitness studio and parking modification permit to allow for the reduction in the number of required parking spaces at 85 Gilman Avenue in the PD Plan Development Zoning District. And our planner is Stephen Rose.
Thank you and good evening. Give me 1 second to share my screen here.
Actually, just for clarity, I'm gonna recuse myself on this item and pull out of this one. I think maybe it actually is a little closer after a second look. So I'll recuse and come back here at this item. I'll rejoin and I'll watch on the YouTube. Sorry for the issue and difficulty.
Okay, that's fine, Commissioner Rillman. Thank you.
So thanks again. And just to reiterate, the first item on the agenda is to consider a request to allow the establishment of a small fitness facility with a parking reduction at 85 Gilman Avenue. So as a continued public hearing item, the Planning Commission previously considered this item and the applicant's proposal at its meeting of June 23rd. After due consideration, the majority of the commission were supportive of the request and directed staff to return with the resolution for approval. The attached resolution to the staff report limits the operation of the business to a total of 9 occupants at any given time, consistent with the applicant's request, but also provides a little bit of added flexibility for the business to operate between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily, where they'd only requested up till 2 p.m. on weekends. With that said, and in consideration of the Planning Commission's previous direction, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving the request. In making the motion, staff would also request that the Commission follow the amended resolution provided on the screen, which serves to correct a minor typo in the first parking modification permit finding. The revised motion would serve to remove the word "not," just simply clarifying that the Commission is finding that the number of parking spaces on the project will in fact be adequate to support the use. As it presently reads, it's kind of a legacy holdover from our prior resolution, which is recommending denial. So we just need to flip the language to say that the Commission is finding the site, it does have adequate parking to support the request by removing that word. And with that said, that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. Anybody have questions for staff?
Yeah, Stephen, this is Terry. If you can just go over the hours again. I wasn't, you went through it fast. Sorry if it was what the applicant wanted, or was it restricted from what the applicant wanted?
Yeah, certainly. So the applicant's request was from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, with a 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Time on Saturdays and Sundays. So just to kind of simplify things, the resolution just really opened it up. So it's 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily now. So they're gaining 6 hours on weekends. That little bit of added flexibility would allow the business, in theory, if there's a parking concern or what have you, they could operate a little bit more during different hours than what maybe they had originally intended. It gives them a little bit more of a buffer to pick the hours that work best for them.
Great, thank you, Stephen.
Any other questions for staff? If there's no other questions for staff, then we'll open up the public hearing. I don't know if the applicant is here to speak on this item.
I'm not seeing his name among the list here.
I don't see it there. He did speak last time. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? If not, then we'll just close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. So I don't know who wants to start. This is a repeat, of course. We had this a couple of weeks ago.
I'd say that this, I think I said everything that I wanted to say at the last time we considered this, and I'd like to thank staff for bringing back this resolution, and I don't see anything wrong with what they brought to us.
I
Yeah, I
agree
guess I'll
with
just
Commissioner Bookbinder.
Sure. And I'll just say that I was against the last time. I do think in general, I like the way that we're going on easing the parking potentially on the commercial spots, but this is especially parking tough areas. So I would still be voting against for the same reasons that I said before. So anybody want to make a motion or?
And just before the motion's made, I just want to add a courtesy reminder. I can bring back up the PowerPoint slide that had that amended motion language, just making reference that in the first parking modification permit finding, we just removed the word "not," just a cleanup.
Yeah, if we could.
If you could please put that up. Thank you. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that the Commission adopt a resolution approving a request for an administrative plan development permit PLN 2019-234 and parking modification permit at 85 Gilman Avenue. Also directing staff to remove the word "not" from the first parking modification permit finding.
I'll second.
Okay, Corinne, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Bookbinder,
Aye.
Commissioner Ching,
Aye.
Commissioner Colville,
Aye.
Commissioner Hines,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ostrowski,
You're muted up, Maggie.
there you go,
Thank you. Aye.
and Chair Cray.
No. So this motion passes,
It does.
and let me make sure I say it right. That the action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days. And we'll move to item number 2. Okay, item number 2 today is a public hearing to consider the application of Dennis Schaefer for a site and architectural review permit PLN 2019-239 to allow a 285 square foot second floor addition to an existing 3,339 square foot 2-story single family house with a floor area ratio exceeding 45%, 48.6% proposed, and a minimum second story side setback of 5 feet where about 10 feet of a side setback would otherwise be required at 1789 Hearst Avenue in the R16 single family residential zoning district. And again, our planner is Stephen Rose.
Thank you again, Chair Cray and members of the Planning Commission. Same deal. Give me 1 second to share my screen.
And I've returned.
Welcome back, Andrew.
Thank you.
Okay, just as just covered, the second item is on tonight's agenda is to consider the request to allow a 285 square foot second story addition to an existing 2-story single family home. So the project site is a single family residential property located on the west side of Hearst Avenue, north of Montemar Way and south of Hamilton Avenue, within the R16 or single family residential zoning district, and is not subject to the subject is an area plan such as the Santa Moss Area Neighborhood Plan. The applicant's request is for the approval of a site and architecture review permit to allow this 285 square foot addition to an existing 3,339 square foot home. Because the property is located outside of an area plan, additions or even new construction in this zone district typically do not require a discretionary review permit. However, since the applicant's request would result in a floor area ratio exceeding 45%, they're actually proposing 48.6% as shown there on the screen, and a side setback of 5 feet where 10 feet would otherwise be required, a site and architectural review permit is required. So in consideration of the applicant's request for an increase in floor area ratio, the code provides 2 findings for consideration. The first asks if the perceived scale and mass of the home will be compatible with adjacent homes and homes in the area. To support this analysis, the report includes a streetscape exhibit as well as a neighborhood survey, which will be covered in greater detail on an upcoming slide. While the subject home would be the largest of those included in the survey, the Planning Commission may want to consider how the overall building form, which is characterized by this low and long horizontal roof, and given the fact that the second story is located over 47 feet away from the street, may diminish the perceived size of the home. So the second finding requested the commission to consider whether or not the home has any design features which may make the home appear significantly larger than homes in the area. In consideration of this finding, the commission may once again consider how the roof profile and distance from the street may make the home appear smaller, but also the lack of design features which may make the home appear larger or out of character with the neighborhood. So on the screen, we have the home over here on the left. The little blue area is indicated where the addition would be. And the home on the right is just an example of a home that has those more dramatic vertical features that really emphasize the height, the size, the mass of a home. That's also a 2-story home. Granted, it's a little bit taller than this one, but that's also another consideration. This home's only 22 feet tall, so it's actually it's a lower profile to begin with. So in consideration, I apologize, the title of the slide is a little bit off. It should be, oh, actually, no, that's correct. It's to reduce second story side setback. So in consider the second request, that for the side setback, the code also provides 2 findings for consideration. The first asks the commission whether or not that this reduced setback would be essentially if it would be detrimental to the health, the safety, peace, or comfort of the general neighborhood or the city at large. And the second asks if the side setback would interfere with enjoyment of adjoining properties, including things such as access to light and air. In consideration of these findings, the commission may consider that the addition would not face the second story to an adjoining property where it's being proposed. You're seeing here on the screen, this is a kind of an excerpt of the street view. So it does, that second story would oppose a like empty air space above a one-story home to the south. Also, that addition will not have any windows on the south-facing elevation. And as a result, that might lend to a greater sense of privacy for that neighbor. And the project at large is also removing a balcony at the rear of the building, which I'm not showing here. But that also could lend to a greater sense of privacy for the properties at the rear as well to the south. And lastly, just kind of touching on that point about impact to sunlight, the home to the south, again, doesn't have solar panels or anything of that nature. Also, just given the placement of this addition, it being north, and in consideration the sun travels, east to west, the greatest shadows that where they would occur wouldn't occur in an area that would be directly impacting an adjoining property to the greatest extent that they could. Those are all kind of considerations for the commission as well, and they were also part of the basis of staff's recommendation. So, to support the compatibility analysis, so I mentioned earlier we'd done a neighborhood study, and there's an associated table as well in the staff report. It's like an Excel sheet. It may or may not be super clear to understand, so I was going to take this moment here to try to explain. So it kind of breaks it down into two parts. The upper part of that Excel sheet table shows this area here in red, which are the neighboring houses. Those which are like in the immediate neighborhood. When you're looking at the home, and you're looking left, immediately left, you're looking immediately right. We surveyed and we tallied what the size of those homes are currently and what they could be. And one of the considerations here is that these lots immediately to the north, 1779, 1771, and et cetera, these have deeper lots. So the homes could actually be larger without requiring a discretionary permit. So I just wanted to mention that. Secondly, and more at the discretion or at the direction of the Site and Architecture Review Committee, we were kind of, during that meeting, we were navigating on Google Maps, just trying to get a feel for the neighborhood, size, and the look of homes. And it was felt that if we were to provide a little bit of an assessment of how common is it that we have these kind of larger, maybe a little bit more boxy styled homes in the area, that might be beneficial for the Planning Commission in the review. So what this neighborhood analysis is doing is it's kind of going over a number of properties. The corresponding numbers like 9 and 10 here are related to the photos on the edge. And it's pretty much highlighting that the subject site, you do have that second story addition. Yes, this will be filling in that offset. So it does kind of make it look a little bit more boxy. But when you look at the greater neighborhood, you have a number of these very large 2-story vertical walled structures, and it's not going to be necessarily out of character with the neighborhood, which is more or less the point. So with that said, in consideration of the applicant's proposal, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve the applicant's request. And this concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I know there's a SARC report, but first, is there any questions for Stephen?
I saw just in the description that the FAR also counts storage sheds. That doesn't seem to be habitable space. How is that broken down?
Yeah, it's a technicality. Any fully enclosed area, so a shed on your property, if you have one in the backyard, that counts against your floor area ratio. It doesn't have to be habitable. It'd be non-habitable space. A garage counts against floor area ratio.
Oh, okay.
So say you had a detached garage, that counts the same way a shed would.
Okay. For some reason, I didn't think that garages counted. Okay.
Yeah, so I just on that point, I think in one of the prior, maybe hidden in the report there, or mentioned in the report rather, is that, yeah, although we're at 48 some odd % here, if you subtract out the shed, which again doesn't really add up to as much mass and bulk of the structure at large, because it can't really be perceived from the front, it's a little bit lower. But I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Any other questions? Stephen, I do have one quick question for you. Kind of occurred to me, but I know that the report talks about how the second story really doesn't infringe or bother the house right next door to the south. But what if that house wanted to do a second story addition or put solar panels on their roof or something like that? What, how does that play? Does that ever play into our thought process when we're getting an application like this? What could happen next door?
Well, that would be at the discretion of the planning commission to consider that type of impact. I mean, right now we are looking at the existing conditions. We don't know how those may or may not change. That home to the south could do a 2-story or 2.5-story addition to their home. They could go 2.5 stories tall, and that would not necessarily be even subject to discretionary review. If they kept their floor area ratio down low enough and they maintain their setbacks. So if you were, as the planning commission, imagining that if you were to have a second story there and they were maintaining the setback requirement, you would have a, in this case, you'd have a 5-foot wall, a 5-foot setback on this property, but then as much as 10 to that opposing wall on the south, because they would be maintaining it. So the commission might be less favorable to approving a second request for a reduced side setback where you already have approved one in the past.
Okay, thanks. I was just trying to keep it as fair as possible for everybody, but that was my thought. I know there's a SARC reviewed this, so does anybody at SARC want to report on this one?
Yeah, I can comment. So yeah, we spent some time talking about this home in terms of the bulk and mass. And I will say, when you look at the home in 3 dimensions, it's actually quite a bit less bulky than it looks just in a 2-dimensional front view, because that second floor is set back quite a bit from the street and from the garage. The garage is quite a bit in front of it, and because of the way the roof line is, it actually looks quite nice. And thank you, Planner Rose, for your very detailed analysis of the neighborhood as well, because that was one of the questions that we had. And it's clear from that and from looking at the neighborhood that there are quite a number of homes that are very large, 2-story, and have a similar type of design. So we were generally supportive of the addition on the second floor.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ostrowski. Any more, if there's no more questions for staff, then we'll open up the public hearing. And I know the applicant is there and wishes to speak, so please go ahead.
Both the applicant as well as the architect is present. I guess I'll start with appreciate, as the applicants, my wife and I appreciate the consideration for the application. And also appreciate Planner Rose doing that detailed analysis. I think it really distilled, gave some context to the neighborhood and how we feel like it's representative and it's not over the top. And I'll turn it over to our architect. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that.
No, not really. I sort of agree with Mr. Rhodes and the SARC committee. It sort of goes, when people go by it, when it's done, they'll think it was originally like that. And that's what I like. It looks like it's been there all the time. So I don't think it's that bulky, and the other houses around the neighborhood, very similar. So that's all I can say.
Any questions for the applicant? Any commissioners? Anybody else wish to speak on this item?
What is the motivation for the expansion?
I'll speak to that. So we have an extremely small master bedroom. It is so small that I actually have to have a dresser in another room. So what we're trying to do is just make our master bedroom a little bit bigger so that we can have furniture in it. We're trying to make our house so that we live in our house and we don't live outside of our house, so that we can keep our cars parked in the garage, keep things stored, again, inside, so that we're not leaving things on the street. Nobody, I might add, lives in the shed. It does just have, bicycles and garden equipment in it. So again, we're just trying to live inside our home. And this was all before, you know, the pandemic. We just don't want to be spread out all over the place.
And the only thing I would add to that is being able to provide not just privacy for ourselves, but for our neighbors that are in the backyard as well as to the left. Right now, as Planner Rose mentioned, there is a balcony which we don't use and really allows us to look into both our neighbors. And by changing that up and essentially putting a window, it affords them greater privacy. So I think it's mutual benefit not only for us, but also for the neighbors.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any more questions for the applicant? Anybody else wish to speak? I will close the public hearing at this point and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Who wants to lead it off?
Yeah, sure. I was on the SAR committee, so I'll say a few words. I think it meets with the necessary findings. I think it's in keeping with the house styles, and thank you to Planner Rose for doing that report, very useful. It is in keeping with the other houses on there. I think there is a mutual benefit, it increases the privacy for the neighbours. The elevation drawing is a bit misleading. I think it's better represented on that photo. I think the massing isn't an issue because you've got the garages in front of it, which type of helps there. So I'm supportive.
I'm supportive as well. From another reason, is just a really nice architect that when you look at the house, as I looked at it today, it kind of looked offset. And I think what this addition would do would be, you know, really make it a, you know, much more synchronized view from the, you know, it's a highly architectural technical term probably, but and make it look more consistent in a build you know, from the street view. So I'm very supportive of it.
Well, my 2 cents is I also am supportive. I think it fits in really well. It was my first time ever in that neighborhood, and it's really an interesting area. And as Stephen's report shows, and as your own eyes will show you when you go through that neighborhood, it is pretty much in keeping with so many of the houses there. So that was a good job by Stephen. I agree. It does help, and I think that this is really fine. Now again, I just wonder if the next door neighbor does it, but they can do a second story if they don't break any of the regulations. They'll do it, and life goes on. But I think it's fine.
I would add.
Frozen.
We
I
lost you,
think
Adam.
he got frozen.
Well, I'll weigh in real fast and maybe he'll be back. I'm supportive of this. It makes sense given the context of the neighborhood. Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Bookbinder.
Sorry, I'm having internet connection problems here today, and hopefully this won't be too much of a thing. Sorry, did I cut you off in the middle?
I was just going to take your silence moment, but I finished. I'm supportive of this update or change.
Yeah, I would add I also am supportive. The things that stuck out to me are that in deference to privacy, it's replacing a balcony with, not exactly replacing a balcony with a featureless wall, but a wall without windows is what's going to be facing the other lot, and that it won't even be directly facing another piece of house. And it does look like that was the way the house was originally supposed to be shaped, which is what the architect says they're going for, and I think the design succeeds in that.
Shall I move to make a resolution?
Sure.
Okay, so I move to make a resolution approving a site and architectural review permit PLN 2019-239 to allow a 285 square foot second floor addition to an existing 3,339 square foot two-story single family home with a floor area ratio exceeding 45%, brackets 48.6% proposed, and a minimum second story side setback of 5 feet, where plus or minus 10 foot side setback would otherwise be required at 1789 Hurst Avenue.
I'll second.
Commissioner Ostrowski seconds. So can we have a roll call, please, Corinne?
Again, Commissioner Buckbinder,
You're muted, Commissioner Bookbinder.
Sorry. Aye.
Commissioner Ching,
Aye.
Commissioner Colville,
Aye.
Commissioner Hines,
Aye.
Commissioner Rivlin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ostrowski,
Aye.
Chair Cray,
Aye.
7-0.
And that motion passes 7-0. So that congratulations to the applicant, and that the Planning Commission action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days. And this
Thank
item
you
is
to
done.
the applicant and the architect for continuing to invest in Campbell. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay, well, I guess we're moving right along. Let's go to item number 3. Item number 3 is a public hearing to consider the application of Chong Sang for a conditional use permit and parking modification permit to allow establishment of a medical office use, Jumpstart MD, within an existing office space on property located at 1626 West Campbell Avenue. Staff is recommending that this item be deemed categorically exempt under CEQA. And our planner is Naz Healy.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
You're a little soft, Naz. If you could speak up just a
Okay.
bit, please.
All right. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, great.
That's good.
So I will go ahead and share my screen. All right. So item 3 is a conditional use permit and parking modification permit application to allow a weight loss clinic at 1626 West Campbell Avenue. The project site is located at Kirkwood Plaza Shopping Center, located southwest of the intersection of Santa Mosaquino Road and West Campbell Avenue. And this is in the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zone District. The proposal is to establish a weight loss clinic, which is considered a medical office, and that's a conditional use. And it's within an existing 1,890 square foot tenant space. And the services provided would include counseling sessions, blood tests, and hormone therapy. The business hours are proposed as 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily, and staff hours would be 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. daily. The proposal also includes a parking modification permit. The previous office use requires 8 spaces, and the proposed medical office requires 9 spaces. And there are 620 total parking spaces in the shopping center currently. And it is underparked by current standards, but based on the amount of parking in the shopping center and the different types of uses with different hours, it's not likely to create a parking issue with 1 parking space. Oops. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a conditional use permit and parking modification permit. Thank you.
Thanks, Naz. Is there any questions for Naz?
Naz, you said that it is currently underparked. Do you mean that the entire shopping center is currently underparked, or just the just this particular application?
It's the shopping center, so there's several buildings and several properties, but they're all part of a shared parking arrangement.
Just out of curiosity, you said there's 620 in the total in the shopping center. How many would there be if it were up to current standards?
That I do not know. We didn't do a comprehensive look at every single type of use and what their parking demand would be, but based on the information that we did have, it was underparked, and it's typical for something that was developed a couple decades ago.
Okay, this is just out of curiosity because we'll be talking about this next month-ish. That was my only question here.
Okay.
And as is this Terry, is the only reason that we're talking about this is the parking modification? Is the use,
Yes.
okay, so it's just the parking going from height to
use.
seat to height.
Yes, we're talking about the medical use as well. It's a conditional use.
So, okay, both.
Yes, so they're requesting a conditional use permit to establish the medical office. And as part of that, with the parking situation out there, it's also
Okay.
including the parking modification permit.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Naz? Well, if not, then let's open the public hearing. And I know the
I'm sorry, I
applicant-
I had one other
Okay,
question for you.
Commissioner Bookbinder?
Sorry, I noticed that in the application, they say that the applicant says that a maximum of 4 professionals and 4 patients will be present at a time. So I imagine that puts a hard cap of 8 vehicles for parking. How are the parking requirements evaluated for this? I'm sorry if I didn't catch where it was written. Oh, it's 1 per by square footage?
Yes, so office uses require one parking space for every 225 square feet, and medical use is 1 per 200.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Naz? Okay, then we'll open the public hearing, and I know the applicant is here to speak. So would the applicant care to address the commission?
Sure, I can just start really briefly. My name is Andy Wojnarowski. I'm one of the architects from WA Design who's been working on this, and joined today with Dr. Sean Burke and Chong Sang, both from Jumpstart MD, who can address any questions about how the business functions. Thank you guys for all of your time on this, and thank you in particular to Naz for all of her time and getting this report prepared and getting us in front of you. I don't really think that I need to take a lot of time to speak unless there are really, I just want to let you know who I was so that if there are questions, you know where to address them. So I think that's all that, I think that's really kind of all that I have to say is hello, and let me know what questions come up about the facility.
Just
yeah,
Commissioner Hines, just a question on the architect. From an architect standpoint, you're really redesigning the interior from an architecture standpoint.
That's correct. This is entirely an interior tenant improvement. There are no proposed exterior changes to the facility. There is an exterior sign component to this, but that was previously approved under a signage permit that's in line with the master signage for Kirkwood Plaza.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for the applicant? If not,
maybe if I could just ask the applicant, since they're here, and let me hear your spiel as to how good you're going to be. So just a couple of minutes as to what Jumpstart MD is going to provide in services. I know I've read it, but I'd be interested from
yeah, that'd be perfect.
Hey, nice to meet all of you, and thank you for your time. I'm Dr. Sean Burke. I'm the founder and chief medical officer at Jumpstart MD. What we basically do is help people get to healthier, happier places. And I know that sounds like a bit of a cliche, but we published a study last January in the Journal of Obesity on 22,000 people, actually over 22,000 people seen over the last 10 years. And we compared it with all other commercial weight loss offerings published in the medical literature since 2000. And our results were clinically superior by a pretty wide margin, with many of the household brands that you're kind of used to thinking about: Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystems, other calorie counting programs, meal replacement programs. And we're doing this from a program that's about teaching people how to return to eating whole, real, fresh foods through one-on-one weekly visits, supported by a team of clinicians, typically nurse practitioner or PA, and health coaches or health educators who help guide them to a path to better health and well-being. I know we mentioned that we do serial labs, or that we do lab testing. We do indeed do baseline blood draws, body composition analyses, and then we do those serially as we go along, so that we can watch as people improve their metabolic state, reverse things like diabetes, prediabetes, metabolic syndrome, fatty liver disease, all the diseases that are currently epidemic in our country, and that, as you all see from reading the papers, put people at higher risk currently have serious coronavirus infections. So these are, massively present in the society today, and unfortunately so. And we have an intervention to try to get people back to eating whole, real, fresh foods, restoring the metabolic balance in their body, and returning to a healthier, happier place. And that's the vast majority of what we're doing. We sure would be excited to do that in the city of Campbell and surrounding communities, and do that in 12 other offices located around the greater Bay Area, with aspirations to eventually expand to a leading national brand. But COVID's kind of put that on hold at the moment.
Thank you very much. Excellent elevator pitch or more. So I really appreciate that. Do you do any prescription drug?
We, since we're clinically or medically supervised, we do offer FDA approved weight loss medication for what I would say currently is about 50% of our population, assuming they're eligible and interested. One thing that our study showed that was a surprise, frankly, was that we had no improved outcomes the way we'd been prescribing for the last 10 years. And the main thing that drove improvement in outcomes was frequency of visits. So from that, we're actually now using novel and increasing combinations of medications to combat things from different angles over time, as people inevitably kind of slow and plateau on any weight loss journey. So as they slow and plateau, then we'll switch up the medications, or we'll add other medications to try to get them to lower and healthier plateaus, and then importantly help them sustain it, because that's obviously a big challenge too. So yes, we do use medications. We typically do that through a local pharmacy. On some more exceptional cases, we'll do that from something farther away where they'll have it delivered. But yes.
If I can ask out of interest, do you offer your services or counseling over telemedicine?
Well, COVID kind of forced that, and actually Chong, who's on this call, was instrumental in kind of engineering that quote unquote pivot. But early on into COVID, we had to shut down the clinic, not because we were required to, because we were still considered an essential service, but because the staff was ultimately afraid to come to work. And so we shut things down for about 6 weeks, and Chong worked very hard to kind of create a telemedicine model through Zoom, where we now have a virtual waiting room, and kind of like today, actually. But anyways, so yes, we now give people the options on all our memberships to either be seen in person or virtually. And we hope to frankly expand the telemedicine offering further over time. And in some ways, what in crisis is a great opportunity. Like this has been one of the maybe silver linings of the crisis so far, is that we now have a more evolved telehealth offering. That's been.
Thank you very much for bringing your interest in business to Campbell. I know that there's other properties over on Bascom on the other side of Campbell that might be available for an MD office as well. So.
Yeah, no, thanks. It seems like a great site, honestly. Seems like a great place. So I'm originally from kind of Palo Alto. I can't confess I don't know Campbell as well, but it's like, where's Campbell? And this looks like a great place. So we're excited to be here.
Well, you're right. It is a great place. Thank you for coming to Campbell.
Yeah, we currently have an office in Los Gatos, about 4 miles away. And confession amongst ourselves, I guess we are likely to close that office given how things have happened. Some things that have happened during the pandemic. Anyways, we'll probably close that office, replace it with Campbell, maybe open up another one later.
Just jump across 85. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Anyways, I'll shut up.
Okay. Any more questions for the applicant?
I had one.
Here you go. Commissioner Campbell.
Not so much a question, more just a continuing of a conversation, gentlemen. I love anything that has to do with helping people sustain a healthy lifestyle and food. Everything that you guys stand for. My question / concern would be, how do you guys plan to differentiate yourself from every other either healthy living facility or Jenny Craig style niche that comes and goes rather quickly? What do you guys, other than the fact that of course you say that you guys have fantastic results, no program is going to promote itself saying it has horrible results, of course. So how is it that you guys plan to make everything work?
Well, for one, congratulations on your beautiful baby. I thought that was maybe not so much for baby anymore, but that was touching and cool. So
Thank you.
I think it's a few different things, but for one, you kind of touched on that. Everybody makes these claims, right? So we published a peer-reviewed study on 22,000 plus people and compared it with all those other people's making those claims published in the medical literature. So there is real scientific basis behind what we're doing and results that support arguable superior efficacy. We also tried to have a kind of, what in medicine, I guess we call an evidence-based approach. Follow the science and see what really improves outcomes. And some of that comes down to, hey, eating real food. Some of it comes down to one-on-one, in-person, individualized visits where we can personalize plans for people based on their lab studies, their body composition analysis, their past medical history, whatever it might be, to really kind of individualize programs for people that helps improve them, improve their lives. Some of it comes to the ability, because we're clinically supervised, to use FDA-approved weight loss meds, which should make a difference. They didn't in our last study that we did, but they should. And that, I think that was more a comment on our need to kind of evolve our prescribing practices to get better results. But I think it's ultimately kind of a combination of elements. I don't know much about Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers other than, Jenny Craig's kind of a meal replacement program. Weight Watchers is kind of a point system and more of a group setting. We're one-on-one real food. We don't believe all calories are created equal. But that's kind of a longer conversation that you guys probably don't want to hear about today. But so I think there's a number of things that kind of differentiates us. And we've been around now for 14 years and haven't gone anywhere yet. Hopefully we'll continue to expand and help try to, address this epidemic, because it's everywhere, so to speak. And, COVID again has kind of exposed that societal vulnerability, where you see that in the headlines. It's like, wow, here's all the people, vulnerable to risk of serious disease. One, it's age, but two, it's metabolic disease. And then lung disease.
Thank you for that. And then just a continuation of that. A lot of the stuff I see on your website, which is very well done, a lot of great services. And I find on this, what you guys prescribe, what you guys do, and what you offer, there are things that a lot of people don't even have any insight into, any knowledge in. And I think it's great that you guys offer these type of services. I don't see much detail on how you guys help people integrate the physical aspects of activity and wellness in that option. Do you guys work with any local gyms, trainers, or have any kind of way to promote the local businesses that offer that one of many components required for the sustainability?
It's a great question. Here's kind of the answer. We would love to, and we do. And in fact, in some ways, I feel like what you're describing is kind of our approach. We really don't think of ourselves as kind of exercise experts. We have some, what I might even describe as kind of unconventional notions around exercise as more of a wellness tool than a weight loss tool, which sometimes gives people some thought. But anyways, that's kind of our premise. It's great for health, great for body composition improvements, great for wellness, but not necessarily great for weight loss. And so as people go through the journey, first teaching them kind of what do I eat, and then ultimately a little more of the how vis-a-vis behavioral change. Some of the how becomes, hey, how do you now incorporate exercise into your regimen to improve your health, to improve your quality of life, but not so much as a weight loss tool. That's something we typically refer out to other people because, again, we don't think of that as our kind of core competency. And we can make recommendations for folks and try and set goals for them, but by no means do we think of ourselves as experts. So yeah, we love to find people we can partner with in that regard. And
yeah, and if I can just piggyback on that,
exercise expert.
All of our locations are managed by a clinician manager who is generally pretty local to the area. And when we look through different locations and where we want to expand or move or grow, it's a thoughtful process to look at what's the best location and how do we establish not just our business and reach there and opportunity, but also to build that community. And in a lot of our locations, the center manager, who's generally local there, has connection and ties to that community, and we empower them to kind of create what is sort of their own little kind of bubble and network of recommendations around, hey, this is a particular purveyor of like fresh farm to table ingredients. This is a particular fitness opportunity or offering that is great. And so building that kind of community within the people that are coming to that location is very key to our success.
That's awesome. I like that insight, and I would love to even see more hands-on approach to that kind of connection with the community. Campbell has a great fitness facility, a couple of them, but American Barbell, you have a lot of independent trainers who would be fantastic fit for a lot of your clients. I just think that the way you guys are putting the puzzle pieces together is great. And I'd love to see that emphasis on the local community and the businesses we have here as well too. I think that would make it stick even better. I love what you guys are doing. I just wanted to have that conversation. I appreciate everything. Thank you guys.
Well, and I will echo your sentiments. We grow primarily from internal referrals, and building community around our clinics, whether within the healthcare community or to other local businesses, is something we by all means aspire to. I don't think it's something we've always done as successfully as we could or should, because we've been too busy kind of, with our heads down, just trying to run the operation. But I think it'd be wonderful for a host of great reasons. But
Chair Cray, if I could just interject, in terms of this use and how it relates to the shopping center, if I could just suggest that the commission really just focus on a medical clinic use as it's associated with this particular shopping center. Should this particular use get established and not work and move on, a use permit still lies in the shopping center. So some other type of use, medical use, could go in there that could be completely unrelated to weight loss. So if we could just continue to focus on that. The concept is very interesting, so I appreciate the questions, but just in terms of expediting and moving this item along, I just wanted to make certain you're aware of that.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner, Mr. Kermoyan, and thank you for all that information. That sounds like a good business. Any other questions for the applicants by anybody? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. And I'll actually chime in first on this one, only because I think I'm the one commissioner who lives right near there. I'm just outside the 500 feet. And I've been going, I actually know that not many people would know this actual office space. I actually know that real well and buy it very often. And I would just say, just from 32 years of experience, the parking issue is definitely not an issue. And I think the use is fine too. But just in terms of a longtime user of that center, the parking for this case is fine. I was interested to hear what Naz said. I can see the possibility with a few huge users that parking could at some point and become an issue. Probably not, but I can see where it could. But in this case, not. So I'll stop there. And any other commissioners want to speak on this item?
Just on the point that Director Kermoyan was making, it's a conditional use permit. So that conditional use would come up again for another applicant in some cycle of review. From that standpoint, it's not a permanent forever. It's a medical conditional use for the duration. And Director Kermoyan, I don't know how long that duration would be, but I just want us to understand that that's what the decision that we're making.
It's in perpetuity.
I'll tackle it first, I guess.
There you
Actually,
go.
it runs with the land indefinitely unless they violate a condition of approval or violate a code provision.
Very good. Thank you for the clarification. I'm totally supportive of it. And I want to thank Jumpstart MD for bringing their business to Campbell.
Just to be clear, Attorney Stugman, so what we're essentially saying is this particular suite can now be a medical office, even if many years down the road, this business moves somewhere else, and like an office that is by right allowed there moves in, then later another medical provider could move in because that particular space is now approved to be a medical office.
Correct.
Okay. I'm I'm in favor of this. It seems like I think the idea of mix of neighborhood services. This seems very much like a sort of potential neighborhood service sort of thing. Clearly, the parking is not a significant issue, and can absolutely, for another time, spur some discussion of examples of places that we would consider underparked now that seem to work out okay. But as to this particular place, I'm in favor. This sounds like a fine use of the space, and I'd like to thank the applicant for bringing their business to Campbell.
Shall I move to make a resolution?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, I move to make a resolution reference attachment 1, approving a conditional use permit and parking modification permit for establishment of a medical office use, brackets weight loss clinic, subject to the attached conditions of approval.
I'll
Is there a
second.
second? Yeah. Okay, Commissioner Ostrowski seconded it. Corinne, we could have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Buckbinder,
Aye.
Commissioner Ching,
Aye.
Commissioner Colville,
Aye.
Commissioner Hines,
Aye.
Commissioner Rivlin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ostrowski,
Aye.
and Chair Cray.
Aye, so that item passes 7-0. And the planning commission action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days. This item is complete, and good luck. Good luck with the business. Thank you.
Thank you all. Really appreciate your time and support. So glad to have the chance to tell our first.
Good luck out there.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward
Thank
to
you all
being
so
in
much.
Campbell.
Yeah, we are for sure.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to our item number 4, which is our last item on the agenda, is a public hearing to consider the
Hold up.
application.
Sorry, do you mind if we take a 5-minute recess? I am having technical difficulties and I need to
Let's take
restart.
a 5-minute recess, guys. So
Thank you. Apologies for that. I'll be back.
8:33.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience.
Thanks, Adam.
Video.
Did we lose Adam again?
I think we're all back.
I'm here. I'm just having my camera's not starting up. I assure you, I'm still here.
Okay, Commissioner Hines is here. Corinne, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's reconvene the Planning Commission meeting with our item number 4. Last item on the agenda is a public hearing to consider the application of Tanaz well, I can't pronounce it, Haghayeg, for a conditional use permit and parking modification permit to allow establishment of an 18,103 square foot grocery outlet with late night hours and off-site general alcohol sales within an existing commercial building on property located at 100 North San Tomas Aquino Road. Staff is recommending that this item be deemed categorically exempt under CEQA. And our planner again is Naz Healy.
Thank you. Oops. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. Okay, so item 4 is a conditional use permit and parking modification permit application at 100 North San Tomas Aquino Road. The project site is located within San Tomas Plaza Shopping Center, which is at the northeast of the intersection of San Tomas Aquino Road and West Campbell Avenue. And this is within the C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district. The proposal is to establish a new grocery store, which is a conditional use when it's over 10,000 square feet in size. The particular tenant space is over 18,000 square feet and within an existing tenant space that was occupied by CVS Pharmacy. The proposal includes off-site alcohol sales for beer, wine, and spirits, as well as late night hours, which is any activity between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. The request is for 24-hour operation for cleanup and stocking by employees, and delivery hours beginning at 5 a.m. until noon daily. Oops, sorry about that. The business hours are proposed at 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., which would not be considered late night hours, but is still subject to approval as part of the COP. The application also requires a parking modification permit. The parking demand for a new grocery store is the same as the previous drugstore. However, the proposal includes replacing 2 spaces with shopping cart storage. There are 519 total parking spaces currently provided in the shopping center. So this is a similar situation as the previous item. By today's code standards, the center is underparked, but based on the amount of parking in the shopping center and the mix of uses with different peak hours, eliminating 2 parking spaces is not likely to create an issue in a shopping center of this size. So consistent with similar approvals, staff has incorporated conditions of approval for alcohol sales, which would limit it to 10% or less of the store's floor area and would prohibit the sale of single serving containers. And that's intended to maintain the alcohol sales as an incidental use. Regarding the requested late night hours, staff is recommending approval of the 24-hour activities within the store or at the front of the store only. And although the request includes 5 a.m. deliveries, staff is recommending 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. as the allowable hours for deliveries and activities using the rear alley and entrance due to its location adjacent to residences. So just wanted to add that earlier this afternoon, we received this proposal for what's intended for the windows at the front of the building. There's some proposed graphics in the windows. So, so it has the name and the logo and some messaging. So this may not comply with the window signage allowances in the sign ordinance, and it would not be consistent with our standard standard condition of approval, which is condition of approval number 5 in the draft resolution. And its intent is to limit window treatments that would obscure views inside. And that's for aesthetics and also security reasons. So we do recommend maintaining that condition, condition number 5. So. Okay, so with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a conditional use permit and parking modification permit subject to the recommended conditions of approval. Thank you.
Naz, can you show a picture of the adjacent residence? Just if you, I know we could look it up ourselves, but okay.
Oh, sorry.
That was...
Keeps going to the beginning. Okay, so here's the back of the building, and the delivery door would be here, and these buildings all along this side of the shopping center are apartment buildings. And this is an aerial view. The delivery area is here, and these are the residential buildings.
What was the scheduled hours for the CVS?
They didn't actually have a CUP with specific hours. They it was a drugstore since the 1970s, but they were not approved for late night hours, so it wouldn't be outside of 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Thank you, Naz.
Just to be clear there, that means that, so as I understand it, we need a conditional use permit here because neighborhood commercial does not allow a grocery store, but it did allow a pharmacy. And those pharmacy's hours were defined by sort of the blanket rules in place, which prohibit late night hours outside of, I assume, very specific circumstances. So everybody, absent a specific exemption, is limited to 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. And that
Correct.
was the case for the CVS. Okay.
Point of clarification. So correct in that the late night hours requires a conditional use permit, but not correct in terms of the grocery store. What triggers a use permit for the grocery stores if it's over a certain square footage? Is that right, Naz? Is it 10,000
Yes.
square feet?
Yes. And then there's the alcohol and late night hours.
Yeah.
So individually, each of those are conditional uses.
Okay. So we know that the CVS was not 24-hour because it could not have been. Are there other? I'm just wondering if this is if there are other grocery stores that do have the prohibition on 24-hour deliveries. I don't know how deliveries work to grocery stores, but I am trying to get an idea of how reasonable that is.
So on the screen, I have a picture of Whole Foods over on Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very similar situation where they have this rear area for deliveries and their trash enclosure. It's adjacent to residential buildings, only really just separated by this driveway. And that's where we took the restriction to the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That was approved at Whole Foods in 2014. And so that's where that condition came from. And we haven't had any complaints.
The new Safeway as well on Hamilton has delivery restrictions.
And the same said at 7 a.m. to, was it 7 p.m.?
I don't recall the particular restrictions. Their layout is a little different. They are, there's a street separating the the delivery area from the apartments, but yeah, that's why my focus was on this as it being a similar situation.
I definitely understand the specific concern here being, the specific concern being that there's a residential area right next to the loading dock. I also wanted to ask, so this is neighborhood commercial. Is the idea behind neighborhood commercial that the services are relatively small scale and that people will not be traveling from a large distance away to get there?
Yes, I think that's one of the intents, but is also to provide a variety of services, and we feel that a grocery store would be one of those.
Okay. But we still do expect most people who go here to drive here, even if they are in the neighborhood.
I suppose, and we are applying the parking requirement, but being so close to some residences, there could be people walking or biking if they're just grabbing a few things.
Okay, those are the questions I had. Thank you.
Naz, could you explain the working in the front, or what was that language about? You had a conditional recommendation.
Yes, so they're proposing 24-hour operations, and so that would include activities inside, but we felt if they were doing some type of deliveries out here, which is the front, being a considerable distance away and separated from the residences by the building itself, we felt we could recommend approval of allowing use of the front of the building.
I see.
During late night hours.
Okay, so if a small truck dropped off a pallet, they could unload it from the front entry. That's what that recommendation was stating?
Yes.
Okay.
If I could add to that, when I was in high school, I used to work in a major grocery store for 5 years into college. And typically what happens in the back of a store is where the store receives the heavy supplies, the milk, the ice cream, the mass products. But in the front of the store is where the smaller trucks deliver bread, potato chips, those types of things, so that they're less impactful. There's no lift gates and things crashing. So dedicating the front of the store for those more low impact deliveries makes a lot of sense as compared to the high impact deliveries that would occur behind the store.
That makes sense. I just didn't understand the language, but they can work throughout the store. So if it's an inventory night or it's a stocking, they're able to do that throughout the floor of the grocery store, right?
Yes, that's what we're recommending.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Anybody else, any questions? Naz, I'll just ask one thing. I know we've talked about it a few times already, just to clarify though, but so in that driveway behind next to the residences, and I think there's somewhere in the report, you even mentioned the word forklift. So there's no forklifts, no trucks, no unloading trucks anytime after 7 p.m. or before 7 a.m., correct?
Yes, that's our recommendation, is no
it's in there.
use
Okay.
of this area, whether it's dumping garbage or accepting deliveries from trucks. It wouldn't be allowed in this rear area between 7 p.m.
I just wanted to make
and 7
sure. Yeah, we've asked a few times. Okay.
Okay, now there's one other, Chair Cray, are you?
Sure. No, I'm done. Yeah, Commissioner Hines.
Maybe it's a personal interest on my part, but the single can liquor restriction, can you explain that a little bit? What's the restriction? That I don't know how you make it so that you can't have a single can.
It is something that we apply consistently to grocery stores, just to kind of maintain the alcohol sales as more, maybe you pick up a bottle of wine and you take it with you to go have it at your house for dinner, rather than, I don't know, I suppose, open it and drink it out in the parking lot. But
So
that is something that we apply to when it's not considered a liquor establishment. And there's a lot of other requirements that kick in when it is a liquor establishment, like locational requirements. And so as a grocery store, we want to keep it a grocery store, not a liquor store, because the ABC license that they would have to get doesn't differentiate between the two.
So what if somebody wants to buy 6 bottles of wine and a bunch of groceries?
They could do that.
Okay. Okay. I've never done it, but that's all right.
Wait, are you saying, not to dive too deep into this, Naz, but are you saying you couldn't buy 1 bottle of wine?
You could do that. I think it's like, I don't know, a 40 of beer.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And like, I know some stores will sell craft beers in cans. You're saying you could only buy a 6-pack then of beer instead of.
Yes, that's
But
that's
one
in
bottle
the,
of wine is acceptable. That still meets the standard.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no more questions for staff, let's open up the public hearing. I know the applicant is here wishing to speak, so if the applicant would care to address the commission, now is the time.
Hello, commissioners. I'm Katie Shard, and I am here representing Grocery Outlet tonight. And I do have several of the Grocery Outlet representatives with me as well. I have Tanaz Hagayeg, who's the architecture manager, and Dan Wisk, who's the vice president of construction. I have Darius Taranchi, who's the director of sales and merchandising, Jacob Glaze with Kimley Horn, traffic engineering, and Jenna Markley with BRR, the architecture firm. So we have a lot of us here ready to answer any questions you may have. We're very excited about this location. There's not a Grocery Outlet store in Campbell. There is one to the west, about 3 miles away in San Jose on Williams. But the project description told you what Grocery Outlet is and what kind of unique grocery experience it is. And it really is a wonderful shopping experience, really high-end products at value-oriented pricing. So it's a really good place for people to get great products at very good pricing compared to the traditional grocery stores. And it does have a full array of all the products you would expect at a grocery store. And in the smaller format, like you see more with the Trader Joe's and the smaller grocery store footprints that are becoming a bit more common. This store will sell the full line of alcoholic beverages, which is beer, wine, and spirits. And part of that is craft beer. As you discussed previously, that is a very big seller. Wine is also a very popular product as beer to be purchased at the same time as other products that anyone shopping for groceries is buying. One of the commissioners, I'm sorry, I don't know which one it was, asked about if it's a neighborhood serving store and are people driving. And yes, the customers primarily drive to the store because they may have several bags that they need to get home, and it's a little bit difficult to get them home often when you're walking, but because you do walk out usually with several bags when you do a big grocery store shopping like you do at a Grocery Outlet. We did talk about the delivery hours and the hours of operation. The 24-hour operation is, as Naz discussed, to give the store operators and employees the opportunity to stock the store, to clean the store, to accept some deliveries occasionally. But cleaning and stocking are very time-consuming activities, especially right now, as you can well imagine with the COVID-19. So it is a 24-hour operation on the inside, and then open to the public from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then as discussed also previously in your conversation with Naz, the deliveries are between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. at the back of the store and 24 hours a day at the front of the store for the reasons I think that you've already discussed, so we don't need to go into that. I did have a question though, because one of the commissioners brought it up regarding the current delivery hours for the CVS. And I definitely understand, as does Grocery Outlet, the sensitivity to the residential neighbors that are directly behind the shopping center. We did ask for longer delivery hours, partly because of what was already occurring at the site, to continue with the delivery hours, which may have been 6 a.m., not quite 5 a.m., which is I think what we requested. But if 6 a.m. is allowable to 7 p.m., then of course that would be preferred to the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I just wanted to bring that up. And I think those were the questions and comments based on what was said previously. So we are all available for any questions you may have or for any clarification. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight with all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant? Anybody?
Yeah, thank you. Terry Hines here, Commissioner Hines. Thank you, Ms. Shard. Really appreciate you, Grocery Outlet, considering Campbell, and really look forward to being able to work with you there. Coming back to the single-use purchase, we were, I love to go into a craft beer, look at all the, display, and then pick 4 or 5. Does that fit within the conditional use that you've got? Or maybe let me ask it a little differently. The way that the conditional use is written, does that meet with your ability to build that sort of a display and usage within Grocery Outlet, or even is it a model that Grocery Outlet wants to have?
The current conditions do not restrict the sale of individual bottles of craft beer. So unless I'm misreading something, and Naz can clarify, but the current conditions allow Grocery Outlet to sell individual bottles of craft beer, which is consistent with other grocery stores. It's a 22 to 23 ounce bottle of a custom beer, usually made in small batch, and customers won't buy 6 of one type of beer to try it out. So to your point, yes, we do need the ability to sell a single bottle of a craft beer. Now, Grocery Outlet, it does not sell those big 40 ounces. I can't even give you a brand name of, some of the other types of beer. But the craft beer in individual bottles is a very big seller for Grocery Outlet.
Very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
If I could just jump in. Yeah, I'm looking through the conditions. 3F includes conditions related to alcohol sales, and Katie's correct. I'm not seeing that condition in there as well. I'm thinking it was inadvertently left out. Maybe Naz, you can explain if that was the
finding the same thing. I know it is what we typically apply. It did not get put in the.
I think
it's in 3F is where it should be.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, I think this is an interesting topic to discuss, and Naz is correct. In the past, the Planning Commission has placed a condition that prohibits single-use serving. So why do they do that? Well, there's a concern, and Campbell in the day had a reputation of being a watering hole, where people would drink, and drink excessively, and uses in proximity to highways creates a safety issue where someone would go to the gas station, buy a beer, and then get on the highway. maybe the commission could look at this use differently. It's near an expressway though, but it's certainly not near a highway. Commissioner Rivlin raised an interesting point. If someone wants to buy a bottle of wine, would that be prohibited? It's kind of an interesting thing. With the beer though, you can certainly just open it up without a wine bottle opener. But that's really kind of the issue behind it, was that there's always this concern that the operation would cater to a habit or a practice of individuals that could create harm. So that's why that condition came about.
Thank you, Director Commissioner Colville.
I'll touch on that briefly. I think it's an interesting discussion when we talk about restrictions on alcohol sale, only because I think it's a holistical approach we need to take when we look at an area and the stores that we allow to do business there, more than just a specific business. This is one man's opinion, but you can have the same establishment being a Safeway, and the one on Winchester has a dramatically different feel if you were to walk around it than the Safeway off of Hamilton. Same establishment, same store, completely different feel. And so maybe holistically, if we were to look at the area in which this or any future development is, that might better dictate for us how to approach the sales of alcohol. I think people who are going to buy liquor to get drunk on the spot are always going to go to their place, their liquor store, their 7-Eleven, their one spot. You get the best deals at Costco, and I never see them there. So this is just me touching on that one topic. I wanted to question just about the deliveries. Our job at the Planning Commission is to try to figure out not just, of course, what our opinion is on your development, but what the community might have as concerns and questions. And so I would love if you'd be able to just help me understand, Katie, when you talk about delivery windows, because I'm ignorant on the topic of deliveries in grocery stores. You mentioned, okay, if we allowed you to have deliveries for a longer period of time and extended that window, it would behoove you. What would happen if we allowed an establishment to just have deliveries 24/7? Now, this is never going to happen, but does this just create anarchy, or is there a certain level in which you have a business model in which you have this down already with other establishments, and you just wash, rinse, repeat? How does that work?
Well, I think, there's a long answer to the question. But I think, first of all, the operator, it must be conscientious. So would there be anarchy? No, I think that even with 24-hour ability to make deliveries, I think that the operator, especially grocery outlet, would make the decision that is right for their neighbors and a decision that works for themselves at the same time. So the reason for a larger window with deliveries is really to have flexibility with the trucks. It doesn't mean that you will have a continuous stream of trucks coming in to deliver product. It does mean that your logistics have a little bit more flexibility with when you can arrive and when you leave to get to the next store, that sort of thing. So I do believe, because I see it with grocery outlet, that they are a very conscientious operator. So I do believe they'll do the right thing by the neighbors and deliver within that window, still being respectful to their adjacent residential neighbors.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to get a handle on what we're trying to decide here, and it correct me if I'm wrong in the decision here, but I think what we're trying to decide is to allow 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. deliveries in the rear, and just that's the request, and then single sale liquor of craft beer, wine, and single unit sale of craft beer, wine, and liquor bottles. While I bought a 6-pack of wine, I've never bought a 6-pack of liquor. So I think that there's single bottle requirement on those 3 categories. Is there another part of the And then 24/7 in the front, 20,
And
which,
the parking, Commissioner Hines.
and the parking, yeah, okay, and the allowing for the modification of the parking modification. Those are the three decisions that we're trying to make here. Have I got them all correct?
I think you got them. Is this a question for the applicant?
Yeah, kind
I
of
may.
both.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
it's the NAS and the applicant. Really what I'm trying to do is make sure I understand what we're trying to decide. But it most importantly also, I'm trying to understand, what is it that's going to make Grocery Outlet very successful in this place. So NAS, please.
The only part I would clarify is that their actual initial request was for 5 a.m. deliveries.
I recognize that. I've heard Ms. Shard ask for 6 a.m. Maybe that's the compromise. I like compromises because that means that it's a workable situation. So it's the parking modification. It's the 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. in the rear, the agreement of 24 operations, and then single unit delivery of single unit sale of craft wine and liquor.
I have a question. Is there a distinction between weekday and weekend hours for deliveries, or is it proposed to be the same?
The application did not specify, it was daily, but I would, if someone from
Okay, so they're the same.
Grocery Outlet has any comment.
Would you like me to comment on that?
Sure.
If I could go through the 3 points, and we'll get to the delivery as well, because that's the first one. Yes, I did propose 6 a.m. as a compromise position. So you are correct that that's where that came from. And that is in the conditions, that is 7 days a week. It doesn't mean there are deliveries every single day. Again, it's more of a flexibility. It gives the logistics team the ability to put those deliveries during that window 7 days a week, but they may not actually be delivering 7 days a week. As far as the alcohol, and I don't like the term single serve because nothing is consumed on the site. So you have to keep that in mind. Whatever is purchased is consumed off site, for the most part at home. And this is brand new to us tonight at this hearing, that the city's considering this because it was not in our conditions. But I got to tell you, this is a 6-pack of liquor is absolute. I mean, that's just absolutely unreasonable. I've never even heard of that before. A 6-pack of wine, never heard of that either at any grocery store. So those are absolute, those are not workable for any grocery store to have to sell 6 of bottles of tequila or 6 bottles of wine or 6 bottles of whatever it is. So we absolutely request the ability to sell a bottle of liquor, a bottle of wine, and a bottle of craft beer. If there need to be restrictions on other sizes of beer, we are open to that. It's really the craft beer in that 22 to 23 ounce size that's very important to the Grocery Outlet customers. So I think that addresses that. And then parking modification, I think, is pretty self-explanatory as far as the 2 parking stalls.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I've got a couple, if I may. Is this store going to be independently operated? So I understand a number of grocery or a lot of Grocery Outlet stores are independently operated.
Yes, this one will be, all the Grocery Outlet stores operate under the independent operator model. And what that means is that you've got an independent operator that has the relationship with Grocery Outlet to operate within the parameters of the Grocery Outlet model. It's a very, very successful model. The other retailer that you may be very familiar with that also uses the independent operator model is Chick-fil-A. And what it does is it really gives the operator some skin in the game, if you will. And stores are operated very differently when you have a partnership and a direct, trying to think of the word, you participate in the profits of the store, you do run it differently. So, I'll give you an example about alcohol, since we're talking about it. When you have skin in the game, you're not going to allow the product to walk out the door. There are grocery stores and drugstores that really turn the other way, and it's the corporate philosophy to allow product to walk out the door rather than stop that person and ensure that it doesn't happen again by confronting them. So grocery outlets have very, very little issue with theft of products because they do have, first of all, a very good top-notch security system, but secondly, the independent operator model that often is a married couple, and they run the store together, and they are always a member of the local community. The independent operator for this store has not been chosen yet, but once the operator is chosen, they do make themselves known. They usually become very involved in community organizations if they're not already doing so in the community and whatever their current job may be. But yes, sorry to go on and on, but yes, it is an independent operator.
Thank you for the additional colour. And in terms of deliveries, in terms of density of deliveries, when do you think they occur, or when do they occur? I guess if you have got early morning deliveries, do you have the majority of deliveries before people are generally at the store? Or is it, where I'm going with this is if you have early, if you had 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. starter deliveries, what I'm concerned about is that's when you get the majority of the deliveries occurring. So I'm just wondering, what do you see as a type of delivery density during the day?
Yeah, good question. I do believe most of them are in the morning, spaced out, but I may need to defer this to someone at Grocery Outlet to help me out here with some specifics.
Sure, this is Darius Tiranchi here. Yeah, the majority of the deliveries are in the morning when possible. Typically our produce vendor and our internal logistics deliver as early as possible where allowed. And then typically we receive a little bit later in the afternoon our refrigerated deli trucks out of a third-party distributor, and the rest of the deliveries vary on the local distributor of the product, say like a Frito-Lay chip or a local beer distributor. Those are never really set in stone and depend on the route set for the day from the vendor. So you could say probably 50% of deliveries come in early in the morning, and the rest are scattered throughout the day in a smaller truck.
Thank you.
Is that all your questions?
Ms. Shard, if you could just explain the fourth one that I had left off was the window treatment plan. That was, if you could explain what your objective is for the window treatments. I think I can guess, but I'd like to hear what you're planning to do with those.
Yeah, so the window treatment is not too different than what you currently see at the CVS. They do have a whitish film applied to the storefront, and the purpose of it really is to allow for efficient layout within the store itself, so you can have some shelving up against that glass. So the film that Grocery Outlet proposes does allow light into the space, and it does at the same time obscure any shelving that's in front of those windows. So it's much more attractive, from an aesthetic standpoint, to have something covering the windows. So what we proposed, again, this is kind of last minute, so sorry for if I'm stumbling a little bit. I wasn't sure. I thought this was going to be done in a different process, but nonetheless, the coverings on the window that we did send to NAS do have some graphics on there. They're graphics of perhaps, I think there is a logo, which may be considered signage, and then some graphics of various items. I'd have to look at it to give you detail. But to your point though, and your question, the purpose is to obscure shelving that may be up against the glass.
Thank you.
So just to add on to that question, I guess. So there would be on the window treatment, the brief picture I saw come up on the screen earlier, it looked like there were special offers. So it's advertising for product within the store. Is that going to happen with this window
I
treatment?
don't know if I'd call it advertising so much. We do have flexibility to change that. So if there is something that the planning commissioners would like to direct Grocery Outlet to do, we're open to that. The main thing for Grocery Outlet is to just preserve the shelving, put some screening on there. Maybe it's exactly or similar to what CVS has. We'd like it to be attractive, which we think we can do a little bit better maybe than what CVS has, which is why we proposed what we did. And I think Grocery Outlet is proposing to go just a little bit higher than what is currently at the CVS store currently. So again, just to provide more flexibility with the interior layout.
And just to continue on that, it doesn't necessarily talk about specific items in the store. It's a general messaging. One says shop us first. One is just our normal Grocery Outlet logo. And it's the same type of messaging that we have on the graphics in the inside of the store as well, but it doesn't speak to any specific item that is in the store. It's a general messaging.
So if I can just jump in and clarify. So yes, what they're proposing in the windows would be considered signage under our definitions, kind of showing what the business offers and is intended to attract attention, and that's the definition of a sign. As far as the CVS film, I can't say that was ever approved. Like I said, they didn't actually have any sort of CUP because they've just been there since the 1970s. The new CVS location within the same shopping center, they do have the same restriction on the not obscuring the windows.
I just Googled some Grocery Outlet stores on images, and a lot of the signage they have there appears to be like offers for product. So that would concern me.
Any more
questions?
Any more questions, anybody?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, Commissioner Rivlin.
Sorry. Real quick, back to the loading dock. It sounds like we're considering a 6 a.m. I'd like to see how that works with the truck, and we'll discuss it as a commission, but does the truck need to idle in the loading bay, or can it be turned off completely?
I think I'll ask Darius to answer that for you.
Yeah, we can have instructions to turn off the truck. The refrigerated trucks typically idle to keep the Freon moving and the product cold, but our deliveries are fairly quick. So we do have some stores where we do, the logistics team has specific instructions to kill the engine during unloading.
Yeah, given the proximity to residential, I think that'd be, I'd be welcome, or I'll discuss it with the commission, but I think that'd be important to me. I don't live there personally, but if I did, I could just envision that, 6 a.m. every day, the milk truck comes in and, on a hot summer day when I'm trying to keep my windows open, or morning, I should say. The other part of that is the trash enclosures. I'll review this with my fellow commissioners, but would you be open to, not using the trash enclosures until say 8 a.m., something along those lines? And the reason I say it is because they're immediately against the residential, and I can just see people either using, if it's a compactor, I'm not familiar, but compactor or the lids, bang, bang, junk getting thrown in there, heavy cans of waste product going into the bottom of an empty bin wouldn't be a lovely sound at 6 a.m. I'm just curious if you'd be willing to consider 8 a.m. for the trash areas.
And currently, do we have a restriction on that? Is that the 7 a.m. currently? So you're asking for another hour, just to clarify?
Well, I guess we're considering the compromise of the 6 a.m. for the loading dock, and I think they're kind of wrapped up together. If I misunderstood that, Naz, let me know. But as a trash initiative, I mean, I'll see what my other commissioners think after we close the public hearing. But just wanted to get your thoughts on that while you had an opportunity to speak.
Fair enough. Yeah, Darius.
My
Thank you.
initial thought on that is by delaying bringing the trash to the proper enclosure, we're encouraging a health and safety hazard with rodents and what other items may leak out of a package onto the warehouse floor. In grocery, pest control is a serious issue, and it's one of our top priorities as a company. Health and safety, and I would be concerned about garbage bags just sitting on the warehouse floor in the back.
I get that. I'm also of the concern then, are you proposing that you're just emptying trash at all hours of the day, 24 hours?
No, we could be reasonable in that, absolutely. But I think 8 a.m. is too late.
How about tied to the same hours of the loading dock?
That would be fair. However, in the morning that would be fair. But if we have a 7 p.m. restriction, we may be in a situation where we're leaving garbage in the back of the warehouse overnight.
Yep, I understand. I'll take these thoughts and see what my other commissioners think. I'll try to make it, a palatable option for you guys. Maybe someone else wants to ask more questions on that, but I get your perspective. Thanks.
Sure.
I was curious, do the delivery trucks need to back up, and do all delivery trucks beep when they back up?
They will need to back up, and I can't answer the beep question. We'll have to get back to you on that.
I would just ask,
I wasn't sure if that was like
clear,
a requirement for all delivery trucks, that they do beep or not. I've heard many of them that do beep, but I didn't know if that was an across the board type of regulation.
Vice Chair, I think it's required, but I'm not an expert in that field, but I think it's a legal requirement.
I would just ask real quick on the trash collection. The trash bins are in the back there in that alleyway between the next to the residence, I take it. Is that correct? I think that's where they would be.
Yes, they're immediately outside of the loading bay.
And I would just ask Katie just one quick question, because I can foresee when the commission debates this, that there's a debate there. I don't know how to ask this to get a good answer, but how big a deal is it for Grocery Outlet to not be able to get the 6 a.m. versus 7 a.m.? How big a deal is that hour to Grocery Outlet? How would you quantify that? Or
well,
sorry, are you talking about deliveries or trash?
I'm talking about deliveries in this case. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'll put it this way. It's important, but can we operate if you restrict it to 7 a.m.? Yes.
Okay, fair enough. I think it'll come up for discussion. Any more questions for the applicant? Any other people out there that want to speak on this? It doesn't look like it.
No, Mr. Chair, there are individuals.
Oh, are there? Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to speak on this item?
Petersons.
I wanted to mention a little bit about the truck. So the current situation, there isn't a truck dock, so there won't be a lot of backing up. It's really just pulling up next to that loading zone, stopping the truck, unloading the truck, and then pulling away. There won't be a ton of backing up if there's any at all. So thought that was an important fact.
Okay, well, thanks for throwing that in. And then I guess Ms. Peterson, would you like to address the commission?
Yes. Yeah, we were concerned. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Well, we wanted to clarify it's about the garbage. We own a building there for about 36 years. We have had problems on and off about the garbage not being really contained, and it smell bad. The tenants complain, and also rodents going around. I know. So we want to make sure, because it's a grocery store, we will be a lot of like veggies, or garbage with that type of that will be more like to smell, so I'm concerned about that.
Sure. No, thank you. Yeah, we'll probably discuss that, I think, as it comes up here. Thanks for your comments. Anybody else want to speak on this item? Okay, seeing or hearing no other speakers or questions, let's bring it back to the commission now for our discussion. I guess we've got a few issues to discuss, so who wants to lead us off?
I'd like to throw in just the idea that there seems to be a considerable amount of uncertainty about noises from trucks and smells from garbage and so forth. And I just want to get an idea of how comfortable we are with the way, as I understand it, we generally deal with uncertainty is that we use conditions of approval. Applicants always have the best of intentions, but if things don't go the way they hope that they will, we should make sure that there's, I would like to optimistically plan and have and make sure that if things do not go well, that it's not an unfixable disaster. That's just the angle I'm coming from at this.
Yeah, I think adding to Commissioner Bookbinder there, I think there's a number of things which have come up. There's the waste, which is both the smell and the noise, which I can see increasing because working on the principle that grocery outlet is going to be successful. I can see that being an increased frequency and a bigger issue. And this waste, these waste bins are right next to the residents here. So I'm not sure whether that needs further work on thinking about how that's managed, because one of my concerns is that we either say yes or no without thinking of what might be a better solution. I think the window treatment type of similar lines. I'm type of concerned again with the window treatment. It can make a place look tacky, right? Having lots of special offers, and it didn't type of reassure me from Googling the images of some of the grocery outlets that it would actually add to the appearance of the area. But at the same time, there might be some good intent there and it might not be an issue. So as this came in as a really last minute addition to the application, I'm wondering whether that needs to be better considered. And the hours of operation, I've type of, again, given the frequency, most of these deliveries are going to be in early in the morning. Given where the housing is, it was a CVS store beforehand, so I don't think it was less of an issue. I'm concerned about permitting this before 7 a.m. The only thing I type of feel, well, one thing I do agree with, I think the single serving side of it, I think is, I'm much happier to allow a single serving facility, for them to do single servings of alcohol. I think that's probably a throwback to Campbell's old days. So I'd be happy to the single serving side, but I'm concerned about the other three issues.
Anybody else? Who's next?
I think that my feeling is that, was I interrupting anybody? Sorry.
No, go ahead, Commissioner Hines.
Okay. We can't raise our hands. Yeah. My concern is limiting grocery outlet by conditions that make them unsuccessful, and the worst thing for Campbell, make them reconsider using the property. So I believe that trash issues, there's There's, code enforcement that is in place today. I have to believe for that. Noise is in place today. So I would like us to consider, let me just run through them real quickly, that the trash, I agree, should be thrown out when it's found. So, or when it's collected. So the rear entrance, the rear access is daily, seven days a week, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the rear, 24/7 in the front. Single bottle or box. There's a lot of box. Craft beer, wine, and liquor. 24 and the parking modification for 2 carts. And it sounds like it's not going to be a stumbling block if we just have the window treatments be, the white opaque. But let's not restrict them. Maybe they could come back later with messaging that they want to put on there and advertising that they want to put in there. But I think that what we want to do is try and make it so that a grocery outlet can be successful and highly motivated and interested in getting into that property location, which is dead. There that place has been for a long time, very little business in that, versus across the street, which is the Knob, or down a ways close by, which is the Knob Hill parking lot's full. We need to be able to get it. We need to be able to get a business in there that is motivated. I think grocery outlets are perfect for that location. Let's not restrict it with codes or restrict it with conditions that we already have code enforcement that we can rely on for it.
Thanks, Commissioner Hines. Yeah, I thought that was good. I'll just chime in real quick then. So again, I live real close. I know this area real well. The parking is no issue. I don't think any of us have the issue with it. I guess with the window treatment, and the garbage, I don't know why this has to be a special case. I don't know why that can't just be handled by the rules that we have for everybody else. So I don't know. It's kind of miffing me a little bit that that those 2 issues are coming up. I think the single serving is a good issue, and I think that's good to allow. I think that is a heyday to the old days of Campbell, and then I'm left with the delivery hours, and I honestly don't think it's a huge problem for a grocery outlet to be confined, if you want to use that word, to 7 to 7. I think anybody knows that 6 to 7 a.m. is early. Most people are still sleeping and or wishing they were anyway. So I don't think that's an owner. I don't think that's going to hurt grocery. I appreciate all the comments. So I would, and it is right next to that. So I know that area pretty well. So it is right next to those houses, some of those residences. So I personally, right now, I'm leaning against the 6 a.m. I would be for the 7 a.m. Parking is fine. Single serving, I think, is fine. And then in terms of the window treatment and the trash collection issues, I guess I think that this business should be regulated by the same rules that other businesses have. I don't think there should be any particular restriction or non-restriction, whatever that word would be. So,
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So if I could just add to the window treatment issue. So you are correct. It's more of a design feature. Safety is definitely factored into that. So people can observe what's happening inside a store. In case there's a robbery or what have you, police officers can see that without obstruction. But it's more of a design issue. So I guess if you were to take a step back and ask, well, if was that important to display product on the west wall, why did they design a building with windows, right? Windows provide relief architecturally, transparency. You can see inside a walled feature. But then what happens is businesses will take that, all that effort of architecture to make it look appealing, and then they put shelving in front of it. So it's really kind of a design feature. So with that, there's no code. If the commission is okay with obscuring glass, then that's your call. Staff is just identifying that as a design issue in which you do have the ability to condition. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Got
I've
it.
got a few.
Anybody else? No, Commissioner Colville?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the same things. I don't want to beat a dead horse. You know, I respect everybody's opinion, so I don't want to belittle anybody's concern, because that's our job, is to have a plethora of concern. I think Commissioner Hines has a lot of great points, which is that our job is to take an applicant's concept, discussion, ideas, in which they will have much more knowledge and insight than we will, and then pretty much just say, hey, look, we're gonna do our best to either make it work or not make it work in our city. So a lot of the things that I find us fine-tune, kind of nitpicking, if you will, are things that I think are business decisions and business practices that I don't have much purview in saying should or shouldn't happen. For example, the window treatments, I understand the concerns, but I also understand that they wouldn't do it unless their target market benefited from that, or they liked that and they saw an increase in sales for doing a certain thing a certain way. And that's not my place to tell this business how they can and can't run certain marketing tactics. I guess you could say it is my place in this situation, but I think you see what I'm saying. The sentiment is they know much more about their business. We just want to make sure it works regarding the noise complaints and potential complaints in that regard. But I definitely don't want to handcuff a future tenant in our city from doing something that they might do in every other establishment they have that helps them with business. And so these are my thoughts, but of course I respect everybody's.
I'll go.
So I just wanted to
Go ahead.
and say, yeah, I'm okay with the parking modifications, and I do think that the hours for deliveries should start at 7 a.m. In terms of the window treatments, to me, that I agree that it may be a safety type of issue, and I kind of liken it to something like, you know, if you own a property and you want to put a billboard on that property, that's not something that you can do, because you can't exactly just put messaging wherever you like. So I think we do need to consider the safety and aesthetics of some of these aspects when it comes to the design as well. And I appreciate Director Crimoyan's point on that.
You know, none of the items I raised were deal breakers. I just wanted to bring them to the attention. And I'm very excited for this applicant to, you know, see their vision forward. So I'm in support of the project. I think it's a great addition to Campbell. Thank you for considering our city. I stole Commissioner Hines' favorite line there. But, you know, I think it's going to add a lot of value, and I'll be shopping there if it's open this year. That being said, I'm fine with the parking. I think a few extra stalls for carts make sense. If that plaza ever fills up, you know, there'll be some other discussions for future tenants, but I think it makes sense in this given time and market. So no problem there. It sounds like the loading areas, you know, we're kind of in between a 7 and maybe 6. I'm supportive of each of those hours. And then the signage, you know, I think if it's done tastefully and it is transparent, I think it's okay. I wouldn't want to see, and I'm not using this brand, but, you know, a box of Cheez-Its and a box of Oreos advertised, you know, in every window, every other window. But if it looked like one was a vegetable, you know, generic peppers and generic tomatoes, I think that kind of fits with the store itself. I don't know if that meets the signage requirements of the city. Maybe Naz can correct me, but if those are allowed within the ordinance, I think that's fine. If it's a tasteful, generic element and not, you know, crazy in your face graphics and buy now and 99 cents. And I don't know, that's just my feeling for this location. And did I cover everything? The trash still concerns me, but I don't know that we need a condition, as long as the applicant's, you know, intent on being a good neighbor. I'm sure they're aware that if there are noise complaints, that does come back to the commission if it's, multiple issues. So, if the staff and the logistical team can not, or have their staff not bang trash cans at 5 a.m., I think we'll be okay. I don't know that we need a condition unless other commissioners feel so.
And I think the single serving of alcohol was the other issue.
Yeah, thanks. I'm totally on board with it. Yeah, obviously no need to sell 40s. I guess the public hearing's closed, but I suspect most of this is warm cans. If someone's going to go get cans of beer anyway, they're going to do whatever they want with it. But I don't know how many people are going to walk in the parking lot with warm beer and, throw it back. So I'm fine with the single use of alcohol. Single serving container, sealed container of alcohol.
Yeah, and along those lines, for the single serving of alcohol, if we're going to allow single servings, then we need to allow all single servings regardless of the ounces and not put any restriction on.
Do we? Or can we make it less than 24?
Well, then you're going to exclude a wine bottle.
And a liquor bottle.
Okay, well,
Right.
Beer cans capped at 24 ounces. I don't know.
Why would we want to exclude a certain volume of a single use?
I can pull up the condition.
I think what they were really asking for, and Ms. Shard, I think, described it, that they wanted craft beer, wine, and liquor. So I think if we have a condition where it's a single bottle or box of craft beer, wine, or liquor. Craft beer in a box isn't here yet, but I'm sure it's coming. So.
I think it is actually, Terry. I think they have the paper ones. You can buy your beer in a paper box or cup.
Okay.
I'd rather do that with wine.
I don't understand why, if we're going to allow certain kinds of beer, why we wouldn't allow other kinds of beer. Why are we?
I get what you're saying, Vice Chair, but they market for 40-ounce beers has its own connotation or lifestyle that you go get this 40 and that's the end of your day. And I don't know.
And I guess what I'm saying is I'm really not comfortable making those assumptions. And
I think our city attorney wants to speak on this one.
I just want to point out that we don't have a definition of what a craft beer is.
That's part of what I'm getting
at. That would be all right, but I don't know.
I would say one person's craft beer
is the brewery, or I don't know exactly how you would define a craft beer in a way that we'd be able to enforce it meaningfully.
Well, and one person's craft beer may not be another person's craft beer. We're talking about preference here.
Okay, if I could jump in, I'm just going to pull up, the typical condition, and let's see. And I was thinking about a better example would maybe be like the airplane size bottles of hard alcohol. Maybe the 40 wasn't a good example, but I think that would also be included as the little tiny airplane bottles. So, so what was applied to CVS when they relocated? The sale of single-serving alcohol containers shall be prohibited. Multi-packaged alcohol cannot be broken up, separated, or sold separately from the original packaging. This includes single bottles or cans of beer, regardless of volume, single-serving containers of wine coolers, or other similar alcohol products. This prohibition shall not include standard wine bottles with a volume equal or greater to 750 milliliters.
That sounds like it reasonably captures what we're going for. Like I was starting to think of some kind of way of describing, well, maybe the content of alcohol in it so that it would, cover exactly what we want it to, but that sounds reasonable. And given that it applied to a place that was also doing retail sales of alcohol, and so far as I know, problems did not follow, this sounds perfectly reasonable.
But this, Commissioner Bookbinder, this is restricting individual cans of beer. So, IPA and a Bud Light couldn't be bought separately. You'd have to buy that 6-pack of that flavor or type.
As an idea, I know that some places you have to buy, you can mix and match, but you have to buy a 6-pack.
How about, it doesn't say here 6-pack. So I guess, you could buy a 2-pack, you could buy a 4-pack. What's the minimum? I don't think it, to me now, I'm open to it, but yeah, if we have to buy in 2s, I think that might be reasonable. I don't know.
And I don't see that this allows for the sale of liquor. I think this is a wine and beer only provision.
Correct.
I don't see any liquor. So I think anything that we put in here to Vice Chair's point is going to be hard for us to define and limiting. I think we have to allow for the sale of single serving alcohol, period. I'm not sure that we could define it well enough that'll stick and be usable, and 2, that allows for grocery outlet to be successful in what's going to be a very high margin product.
Well, I would also add that I don't think it's I think that we don't prohibit the sale of single-use containers, or single-serving containers of alcohol throughout the city as a whole. Do we?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
Do we prohibit the sale of single-serving containers of alcohol throughout the city as a whole?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, we have a couple of liquor stores.
Can I try a motion, Chair?
I think you're welcome to try a motion. Let's see what we can do here.
Yeah, let me try a motion. There'll be some obvious things that I'm going to leave out. So I'm going to accept the PLN 2020-45 as is, because that includes the parking modification, that includes the 24 in the front, that includes the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And what I'll add to that is, correct me if I'm wrong, Naz, but I think those are already included. And so that the additional conditions is to allow for the single serve, whatever we want to call it, the single
Bottle? Single serve alcohol.
Allow single serve alcohol, period, not trying, and allow for window treatments to provide the messaging. So let me try and put it into a motion that it's or I could read out the whole thing, but it's PLN 2020-45 as is, with the additional condition of single serving alcohol and window treatments, period.
Chair Cray.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the window. Yes, Director Kamoyan.
I'm looking for a second. That was a motion.
If it was without the window treatments, I would second it.
I'll second it.
Okay, so can I speak
Yes,
now?
yeah, Director Kamoyan, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I don't think there's no reason to place a condition on the single serving. If you don't have the condition, then you're allowing it. So
Okay.
placing a condition to allow it seems kind of duplicative.
So offsite general alcohol sales includes that. Okay. Okay, so the
And then
condition.
the hours, Commissioner Hines, you said
Yeah.
7 a.m. or 6 a.m.?
7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That was within the PLN 2020-485 already, correct?
So,
Yes.
okay.
That would be deliveries to the rear
Correct, 24/7 to
area.
the front.
Okay.
So the only change to that is the window treatments. The condition to allow for the window treatments, to give them clarification for the the first one, but so let
So
me.
everything's as is in the packet with the exception of the window treatments.
Correct. Well, the window treatments wasn't even in the package. We're
Right.
just trying to give them an answer to that, to allow that. So
I would
PLN
be.
I think
Go
that
ahead.
works.
I would, on the window treatment, what concerns me is just a free fall on the window treatment. You know, I think something which is, you know, you could put anything up there. I think as it's worded, I would, you know, I don't want to unnecessarily stop them from doing something, but I just want some type of control that they can't put any type of window treatment up. I don't know how. So I wouldn't be in favour of that with no control on the window treatment.
There was a motion, correct?
Well, there was a
Yes.
motion. I'm not sure it was seconded.
I second the motion.
It was seconded. Okay.
Ready for a vote?
Yeah.
I'm not clear what motion was actually seconded because Commissioner Hines changed the motion and I didn't hear a second after the change.
I see.
Chair, can I try again?
We'll have to do it one more time. Okay,
All right.
Commissioner.
Okay, so I propose to accept PLN 2020-45 as is with the addition of window treatments.
I second that.
And that's seconded. Motion made and seconded. There is no alcohol provision in the motion, so we're already fine there.
We took out the single serve alcohol from the motion.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, we didn't need it. So I guess, can we have a roll call, Corinne?
Commissioner Bookbinder,
Aye.
Commissioner Ching,
I think you're
muted.
No, the microphone didn't pick it up.
what was your vote, sir?
No, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
But I didn't hear your vote.
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Commissioner Colville,
Aye.
Commissioner Hines,
aye.
Commissioner Rivlin,
No.
Vice Chair Ostrowski,
No.
Chair Cray.
And I'm no as well on the window treatment provision.
Yeah, me too.
So that motion failed, I think. Was it 3-4?
Can I raise a comment before
Sure.
we
Sure.
move to another motion if that's what we see fit? I think we just need a little more language around the window treatment, but I think to be prescriptive, we can't be subjective because that doesn't help the applicant nor is it defensible. So if we can come up with some kind of way to support their window treatments that isn't going to, be would fit the vision of Campbell and doesn't become kind of a mess over time.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah, I agree.
How do you put that into words?
Maybe it's a
That's
percentage
why
of
I
window.
suggested it, and someone else can.
Well, Commissioner Ching?
I'm sorry, no, I don't have a clever solution.
I guess the only suggestion I can think of is to restrict the percentage of the windows that can be obstructed to 40%, 50%, something like that. That would still keep it
Possibly
open.
no use of logos. That would be one of my thoughts.
That's another thought.
It's so subjective. It's very hard to weigh in.
It's a little
to be
subjective.
honest.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think what they had on the messaging there said shop here first. So, that doesn't have a logo, but it's an advertisement.
If I may say something, I believe the current language mentions that
The public hearing's closed, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Tanaz, you can't speak right now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Get the public hearing closed.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time because I know some people are opposed to the window coverings and some aren't. And I hope that we can get some clarity for the applicant. Maybe the ones who feel the strongest about the window coverings could do the go ahead.
If I heard the applicant correctly, one of the things they wanted to do with the window covering was to have a type of frosting effect, so that they could put racks near the window, which would mean that if it was limited to that, there would be no type of advertising. So if it was limited to application of a frosting coating or plastic, that sounded like that's one of the things they wanted to do, and that would prevent, type of signage and advertising logos and that type of thing.
One of the concerns was also regarding the safety and security and the ability to see in the windows, and that would solve one issue, Commissioner Ching, which is the out of control signage, but it wouldn't solve the potential safety issues. And again, my personal opinion is that it's not as big of a deal to me, but that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be discussed, and so that's important, of course.
Yeah, if I can just weigh in,
Sure.
unless we got rid of it somewhere, we already have a limitation on the amount of signage that can be in windows coverings. I don't recall what that was for some reason. I seem to remember 25% of the window.
25% though. Yeah.
So that's already standard. So if we don't include the window treatment in the motion, it would default to the city, city's 25%.
Right. The display of window signage is in code. So that's something that's objective, we can follow.
Okay.
The opaqueness or obscuring with a frosted tint is not in the code. That's more of a design preference.
Can we just go with the existing code? Because it sounds like you're allowed to do 25% of the windows for signage, and that's within the existing code.
I'm supportive of that. I have a question for Naz.
Me too. I'd be supportive of that.
Naz, were there any special, and I've forgotten, I'm sure it came up before us, but what does CVS's new CUP show or call for?
And I'm sorry, I just lost the last minute of voting.
Sorry.
I think I was frozen.
I was asking what the CVS, they're in the same plaza, right?
Yes, they moved to a different location within the same.
What are their
shopping
signage conditions, or is it just the city standard?
So I'll pull that up.
And not signage per se, but the window treatment.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just trying to find where they're.
Understand. Take your time. Maybe we'll have some further conversation while you're looking.
Commissioner Ching, if we were to resort to the standard code of 25%, which I wasn't really aware of, I don't know how many of you guys were. Does that remedy any of the issues you have, or does that still create the concerns that you're expressing?
I wouldn't have a concern if it's existing standards. That would be good with me.
Got it. Okay.
How about if I try to make a motion then?
Sure, let's do that.
All right, why don't I make a motion to adopt a resolution, attachment 1, approving a conditional use permit and parking modification permit, PLN 2020-45, of an 18,103 square foot grocery store, grocery outlet with late night hours and off-site general alcohol sales.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been seconded.
Sorry, just to be clear, what exactly does this motion mean for the window question?
So it's going to default to the city code, which is you can cover up to 25% of the window.
Okay, that's what I thought. Just wanted to make sure. Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Corinne, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Bookbinder,
Aye.
Commissioner Ching,
Aye.
Commissioner Colville,
Aye.
Commissioner Hines,
Aye.
Commissioner Rivlin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ostrowski.
Aye.
And Chair Cray,
Aye.
7-0.
So that motion passes 7-0. So that item is done. The planning commission action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days. And good luck to Grocery Outlet. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Campbell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Kamoyan, do you have anything to report to the commission?
There is nothing, unless you have questions on the director's report, I have nothing to comment on.
Any
I have
questions?
one question.
Yeah, there you go.
I do. I'm sorry to be kind of a broken record about this. I tried to get in touch with the city manager for using the phone number on the city website and left messages and have not gotten a call back. Is there a better way to try and contact the city manager about trying to get a joint session between the planning commission and the city council?
You know, Commissioner Bookbinder, I immediately, this is what I will do. The next day, I always will inform the city manager that, you know, a commissioner is asking some question. The last meeting, I did exactly that. But he said he tried to call you and you guys were missing each other. So what you're saying is he's never contacted you. Is that what I'm hearing?
I have gotten, I don't have any missed calls or anything. I think I left the correct phone number. Is the number on the website the correct office number?
Yeah. If you can call 866-2125, and that is his executive assistant, and speak with her. She will get a hold of him.
That's area code 408?
Yes.
866-2125. Okay, thank you very much. I apologize. This keeps on coming up, but I will try and get this worked out.
And I can assure you, I'll tell him again that you're trying to get a hold of him. That's what I've been doing. So, sorry.
And when he gets a flurry of calls, he'll know why.
Well, we thank you for your efforts, Commissioner Bookbinder.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Colville?
I didn't have a question. I wanted a few minutes of you guys' time. If there's any other questions, please ask. And I just want to take about 5 minutes of you guys' time to discuss a potential motion. Any other questions before I have
any more questions? Or yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Colville.
Awesome. I don't want to take you too long here. You guys were all working so hard. But I spent a very long time the past few months looking at what I find to be a very important matter here. So I wanted to start here. If I could have the ability to share my screen. I might already have it. I don't know if I have it already.
I think you can get it.
I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot here. Let's see. So
before we get into this, I just do want to remind the commission that we cannot discuss things that are not on the agenda other than to request something to be agendized.
Okay.
got it. And my goal is to request something to be agendized. And the way it worked last time, and I saw Bookbinder make the same request, and unless I missed it, I didn't feel like there was actually any formal conversation before we came to a meeting where there was all of a sudden a motion for a zone text amendment. And my understanding was that we were going to have maybe a session, a joint session of discussing what Commissioner Bookbinder had requested before any potential motion for changes. Is the method that we went through with Bookbinder's request regarding the parking situation, is that similar here? Or shall I be able to make a motion to agenda something, and then we can have a discussion about it future date, and then at that point after that make another motion subsequently?
Well, you can introduce what you want to make the motion about. I don't know how much information you need to impart. This really isn't the time to get into a discussion of the item. It's really just a time where you could make a motion to put something on a future agenda.
Got it. And can I ask one of my fellow commissioners a question?
Yes.
Okay, I can do that. Okay,
sure
Commissioner Bookbinder, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you feel like there was adequate discussion regarding your parking situation?
You mean, well, my understanding was that all we could do was discuss that we wanted to have it reconsidered. And in fact, I think part of the director's report was that that the city council is deciding whether or not to give staff the resources to bring it to us for a proper study session and to actually go forward with that. And that's going to be on, I believe, September 15th. So I feel like we discussed that we would like to do something about that, but no specifics, because it's sort of the preliminary discussion. So what was the thing you wanted to bring up?
I wanted to agendize a discussion for the zone text amendment regarding the use of FAR in our light industrial commercial districts. That's the topic of conversation I'd like to have a discussion on at a further date, I guess, I think.
Okay, so my understanding of this is that, like, we can talk about whether or not we'd like to talk about this, and I'm guessing I can ask what motivated this, and like what the
city attorney, can he ask what motivated this, or not? I definitely don't want to break any rules here. I'm looking for guidance here. I'm sorry, sir.
I mean, you can ask for clarification as to what the issue is that you want to agendize. I don't know that getting into a discussion of your individual motive is really appropriate.
Commissioner Colville, I think you proposed the motion. At least I understood it as you wanted to have a zone text amendment review of the FAR in the light industrial.
That's correct, in the industrial and commercial zoning districts of the Campbell Municipal Code. That is correct.
Why don't you propose that as a motion, and that will get it on the agenda.
Okay, got it. I would like to make a motion to agendize a topic of discussion, specifically the zoning code text amendment providing greater FAR intensification in the commercial and industrial districts, as found in Chapter 2.1.10 of the Campbell Municipal Code. That is a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, I think we have a motion and a second. Corinne, can we have a roll call vote?
And hold on just a sec here. Commissioner Bookbinder.
Aye.
Commissioner Ching.
Aye.
Commissioner Colville.
Aye.
Commissioner Hines.
Aye.
Commissioner Ruglin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ostrowski.
Aye.
Chair Cray.
Aye.
7-0.
Okay, so that motion passes, so we'll bring it up for a discussion, put it on the agenda.
And thank you, Commissioner Colville, for being proactive.
Good job, Commissioner.
Thanks for the guidance. I feel bad for the city attorney.
You can bring it
who's
up
sitting
and then
here.
we'll talk about it. That's good.
Thank you guys for everything.
Anything else, anybody? Any more questions?
Go look
Without
out at
that-
Presidius.
We got to go look at some meteor showers.
Yeah, go look at the meteor shower.
This meeting of the Campbell Planning Commission is closed until we reconvene August 25th, our next meeting. See everybody then.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.